and welcome to the 90th edition of Marex Maritime News. The headlines Monday, 1st of November 2021. COVID-19 restrictions force mass resignations by seafarers. Seafarers' happiness increases to pre-pandemic levels. Women in maritime should be courageous, expect equality, and fear nothing. Asia secures American gas shipments. Expert reports on dry bulk markets. The world is seeing a growing number of disenchanted and unappreciated seafarers who are quitting their jobs in what the media has termed as the Great Resignation. The treatment seafarers received since the beginning of the pandemic has given many seafarers a reason to rethink if this is the correct profession for them.
There have been a few reports of the Great Resignation doing the rounds on social media, and it has grabbed the headlines. But I do not subscribe to that view, because today most of the seafarers come from developing economies, and for them to resign from their seafaring jobs and take up alternate employment ashore in an already struggling environment is not an easy task. Moreover, the skills they have on board for use on board ships are not necessarily the skills that can be adapted ashore. So I suspect it is media hype. The seafarers are suffering, no doubt about it, and a lot of those sufferings are man-made. They are not real. They have been created, and they are a stumbling block for the seafarers, and the world needs to wake up and make life easy for them. Let us not make a mountain out of a molehill by calling it a great resignation. It is not. It is not. So relax. There are plenty seafarers available. They may not be willing, but they are there, and the global trade is running.
In sharp contrast, however, the Mission of Seafarers has published the latest Seafarers Happiness Index report, which highlights that happiness levels have increased overall to 6.59 from 5.99 in the previous reporting period, returning to the same level seen pre-COVID in Q3 2019.
Seafarers have been going through a number of challenges right from the start of the pandemic, that they were not able to sign on and sign off from the ships. They had to stay on board for extended contracts, and they could not join their families during a time of emergencies, or the seafarers who were at home, they could not join shipping. Due to these all challenges, the Mission to Seafarers carried out this Seafarers Happiness Index, and which has been supported by the Standard P&I Club as well as the Volume Shipping. In the latest report, which they have shared, is that the seafarers, although the happiness index is slightly improved, which is a good sign, but the major concern still remains the same. The seafarers still do not have access to shore leave. They could not step down from the ship, even though they can see a landline phone across the jetty, and they cannot call up their families. They cannot remain. They are feeling helpless to connect to their families because of heavy cost of internets on board, and not been allowed to get down from the ship to at least connect to their families on a phone, which impacts a number of seafarers on their mental health as well. And therefore, the seafarers are feeling a bit of reluctance to rejoin shipping, and probably they're thinking about that they may have to leave the shipping as a career and maybe join a shore career, or probably as some other job. And this can be quite concerning for each and every stakeholder, because seafarers are very essential to keep the supply chains running across the globe. And they have done it right through the pandemic, for which every seafarer has risked their entire life. They could not attend the funerals of their loved ones at home, and despite severe emergencies at home, they kept the supply chains and the ships running across the globe during the pandemic. And therefore, it's our duty now to look after each and every concern which has been highlighted in this report, and make sure that the seafarers' health and well-being is been taken care of. They have been prioritized for vaccinations. They have been given the shore leaves. They can get on and off the ships and they can come home and they can rejoin shipping at without any difficulties which they are facing right now. Let's hope and let's keep on trying our best to support our seafarers worldwide.
A senior shipping executive believes that women are treated much better now than when she joined the sector in 1989, but feels more work is needed to increase gender diversity. The advice: women aiming for successful careers in maritime should be more courageous, not worry about failure, and expect to be seen as equals.
Women in the maritime industry need to be courageous, expect equality, and fear nothing. This sounds very idealistic, doesn't it? When I started working in the maritime industry 2 decades ago, things were very different. We have indeed come a long way, but we also have a long way to go. It's 2021 and we're still seeing all-male panels at conferences. We're still hearing about the first woman CMD of the Shipping Corporation, the first female river pilot in India. What we need to do is make sure that we celebrate these successes, highlight these role models, but also widen the road for the females that are coming into the industry. We need to make sure that the industry is welcoming to women. It's you and I together can make this change. So today I pledge that I'm not going to let any young woman back out, because not on my watch, and I'd request you all to also follow this. Can you join me as we make the industry more welcoming to women and say, no more discrimination, not on my watch.
A global energy squeeze has sent prices for gas and coal surging from Australia to the Netherlands. Utilities are busy stocking up on fuel before winter descends on the Northern Hemisphere and heating demand soars. Asian liquefied natural gas traders are rushing to secure shipments from the US, where prices are among the cheapest in the world. Now, our dry bulk market report, direct from the expert.
A wave of COVID-19 cases, supply chain bottlenecks, and surging inflation downshifted the pace of the economic recovery. In a time when the global economy seems to be in a synchronized deceleration following the impressive previous period expansions, inflation indices remained at multi-year highs. Beijing decided to intervene, pushing iron ore and coal prices materially lower. In fact, coal futures hit a record $310.17 a ton on October 19, but have since declined by almost 20%. While 20% drop seems dramatic, it's worth noting that coal futures are still up more than 200% so far this year. Baltic indices. The dry index was 3,519 last Friday, down 111 points. The average earnings on the Cape sizes were 36,065. Panamax 82,000 was 35,061. Supramax was 34,147, down by $944. And the handysize index was 35,487, down 699. Another week with Baltic Capesize indices pointing south. The main 5-time charter lost an extra 30% during the last 5 trading days, ending at 36,065 daily. Tuesday pushed the Pacific market further down, sending the West Australia to Qingdao index down to $12.50 per metric ton, or some $10 below its recent maximum. The Marana Hero 180,000 was fixed for a Pacific round at 35,000 daily, delivery Pohang end October. The index moved further down, finishing the week at 32,979 daily, or around $53,000 below the early October multi-year high. On the Indian coal front, a vessel was booked on subjects for 150,000 metric tons stem from Saldanha to Krishnapatnam with option Kandla for 7/16 November at $18. Whilst both India and China are still struggling with coal shortages, China's average daily output of crude steel recorded a 3-year low in September. The country continued to control the production and energy cost of the steel industry. In the Atlantic, none of this basin indices showed any mood to stop the free fall. The main gauge of activity in the Atlantic recorded a 22% weekly decrease, balancing at 28.07 per metric ton. Vale was heard linked to two vessels at $28 per metric ton, one Newcastle Max and one standard Capesize for end November and early December positions for voyages to China. On time charter basis, Baltic indices kept losing steam last week. In particular, the transatlantic index closed at 41,600 daily, or with a demoralizing 36.5% decrease week on week. In tandem, the front haul index reported double-digit losses, finishing 23.9% lower at 63,225 daily. Capacity utilization rates at electric arc furnaces, which consume double the electricity to produce a ton of steel compared with blast furnaces, dived more than 20% year-on-year at the end of September before recovering slightly in October. Panamax segment, following the sharp decline on the Cape Index and a rather heavy sell of the freight futures, the average succumbed to a 10% decline week on week, including at 35,061 daily. With La Nina looming in the Pacific, weather agencies issued warnings for a frigid winter across the northern hemisphere. The market is closely monitoring whether coal shortages are actually easing. The Chinese port authorities informed mills and trading firms which hold Australian coal that has already been discharged at Chinese ports that customs will commence to clear these shipments. Around 1.2 million tons of Australian thermal coal are sitting at Chinese ports, down from at least 7 to 8 million tons at the end of 2020. In the spot arena, with a deafening silence from Indonesia and East Coast South America, vessels in the south were having to eventually face the harsh reality of Indonesian round voyage index losing in excess of $5,000 week on week, concluding at 33,375. From the north, the prompt ships did not enjoy a better fate, as NOPAC and Australia failed to provide substantial cargo inquiry. As such, Pacific round voyage index dropped 15% week on week at 34,313. The Agri-Ocean 81,700 fixed delivery CJK early November for a trip back to the Far East at 36,750. But as the week evolved, rates landed closer to the low $30,000 for similar runs. Wu Yang booked a 93,000 tonner from Taiwan for end October at 38,000 via Australia redelivery South Korea. For direction India, Beijing 2008 82,000 tonner was booked from Mizushima early November at 36,000 daily. In the Atlantic area, Brazil's official data showed that soybean exports reached 2.7 million tons in the first 4 weeks of October, with the pace of shipments 50% higher on the year. However, for the same period of time, corn exports were 63% lower, although it should be noted that daily exports were up by 34% on the week. The East Coast South America round voyage index concluded 8.5% lower at 35,310 daily, and for this run, Bunge fixed the Medi Matsura 81,000 delivery Durban early November at 37,000 plus 700,000 gross BB for Singapore-Japan redelivery. The Wenzhou high 76,600 fixed Gibraltar, prompt for a trip via North Coast South America to Egypt at 36,000 to Cargill, and also a post-Panamax from Gibraltar with East Coast South America loading and redelivery Scott Jib was booked at 34,000. For a front haul, the Ocean Scallion 82,000 fixed delivery Jib, second half November for a trip via US Gulf at 45,500, reflecting a 9.3% drop on the front haul index, which had concluded earlier at 47,955. From the Black Sea, Russia's agriculture minister estimates that the country will harvest about 4 million tons less, or a total of circa 123 million tons of grain, after drying and cleaning in 2021, contrary to more positive expectations about the crop from main analysts. With the physical market losing steam and lack of freight future support, not much was reported on the period front. With La Nina looming in the Pacific, weather agencies issued warnings for a frigid winter across the northern hemisphere. The market is closely monitoring whether coal shortages are actually easing. Supramax rates still unfolding with no visible support point as of this moment. Overall, the value of the Supramax index decreased 13.4% and was assessed at 34,147, bringing the market back to the mid-August levels. The Pacific Basin received most of the fallout, a reduction in Chinese coal imports. The BSI Asia contracted 20.3% week on week, going down from 36,303 last Friday to 28,924 last week. Higher volatility meant that fixing on subjects was a commonplace. Handymax, Great Wisdom 45,000 fixed round trip via Russian Pacific, redelivery CJK at 27,000. By contrast, the We Pacific 53,000 fixed at a much lower 23,000 basis delivery Yangjiang for a nickel ore via Philippines to China. The Indian Ocean also suffered some losses, even though on a somewhat smaller scale. The Unity Spirit 60,600 agreed 40,000 basis delivery Porbandar for a salt via West Coast India to the Far East, and Orient Sky 60,293 open Mina Sakar was rumored to be on subject for a trip to West Coast India at 38,000. Rates drifted lower in the Atlantic too. The damage, though, has been so far contained in North America, where values lost circa 20% week on week. The Asian Summit 62,000 was rumored fixed 46,000 delivery Norfolk for a trip with coal to Ploche. On front haul employment, the Ocean Prince 52,000 got 35,000 daily plus 1 million ballast bonus. Delivery Houston for grains to China. The South Atlantic hovered near last done levels. Across the pond, the Antigone B 56,000 secured 41,000 delivery gain for a scrap to the East Mediterranean. Fewer period fixtures were heard last week as many operators decided to hold back and re-evaluate next week. The Jia Shang Chan 56,600 open Brownsville was heard fixing around 50,000 daily for 4-6 months trading redelivery worldwide. The Supramax Asia time charter index contracted by 20.3% week on week, going down from 36,300 last Friday to 28,900. High volatility meant that fixing on subjects and failing was a common practice. The deja vu feeling was getting clear in my mind when I thought about two words, Beijing and Olympics. It was May of 2008, about 3 months before the Summer Olympics in Beijing, that the market came to halt from the previous super cycle. It is again about 3 months before the Winter Olympics in Beijing, and it seems the market is coming to a slowdown. The other view to this is that the market was too hot to handle and a correction is only logical to happen. A bit like when a fallow period is required for the soil to restore its fertility. I personally think that we endured the last drop and we shall endure this one too if it continues. More specifically, the Far East kept moving lower the whole of the week. This meant over 2,500 loss on all indices, leaving the owners to run for cover, not being very picky on what is there to fix. Some people commented that this was logical, with smaller factories in China cutting down on production in order to start meeting emission control levels prior to the Winter Olympic Games. Another deja vu movement popping up. Let's see how that case develops. In reality, there is a certain pressure in building up with no fresh inquiry in the market on all fronts. Some comment that it is mind-boggling how shipping is affected from some games, but I guess something happens just without explanation. As far as next week is concerned in the Far East, we expect levels to continue on a downward spiral. As for India, perhaps Happy Diwali will nominate emails. Mount Baker 33,000 fixed a minimum 4-month period within Atlantic at 35,000 with delivery Rotterdam. In my simple mind, when Beijing and Lausanne, where the International Olympic Committee sits, mingle, bad things happen to shipping. The big thing to worry in the future is the crewing crisis, which is pushing seafarers to join the Great Resignation. I would leave this topic for the management companies to elaborate on the reasons. In my opinion only, a growing number of seafarers are quitting after being disenchanted with life at sea during the pandemic. Some of the reasons seafarers cite for resigning: poor treatments in ports by authorities who deny all support and assistance, long extended contracts and delayed repatriation, long quarantines in foreign countries, stress, anxiety, fatigue, no shore leave, desire to spend time with family. Happy and safe Diwali to all my friends.
With a heavy heart, we share the sad news of Captain Chandramoulieeswaran, ex-Warden CMMI Court and current committee member of the CMMI Chennai chapter, who passed away around 19:30 hours at a hospital in Chennai on Friday, the 29th October. May his soul attain moksha. Om Shanti. Extremely shocking and sad news that Mr. Jacob John, ex-Chief Engineer and Superintendent, SCI, met with an accident today, the 1st November at Kochi, and succumbed to his injuries. Jacob was an MEO teacher, a great human being, and known to be a very helpful and noble person. One of the kindest persons anyone has met. May God Almighty give his family the strength to bear this irreparable loss.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching. See you next Monday.